today. So every day we start fresh because we can't affect the past, but we damn sure can make a difference today.
Welcome back to another episode of Shop Talk. John Nolan thought he was getting pranked this week, but really Chenford was the two pulling one over on everyone with their little prank. So the rookie was packed with some funny moments and a lot of chaos, and we're gonna break it all down. But first, there's quite a bit of news, so we'll just jump right into it. Kari, do you want to take it away with the first episode description?
Sure. So we have for 714, it's called Mad About Murder. And the description is that Tim receives a strange message launching a larger investigation into the dark web. Meanwhile, Selena works to take down a popular podcast, and Miles helps update the department's training videos. That will air on April 15th. So a couple weeks.
Hmm. I'm excited to see Selena take down the popular podcast.
I'm just glad it's not us.
Yeah, I'm glad it's not
Just
us, but
kidding.
also
Haha.
still love their her little video with Melissa on their Podcar podcast
Mhm.
because that is you and I both. Actually, just
Yeah.
before we started re-recording this one. So,
Mhm.
yeah, yeah. Um, it was Sean's turn to do the press after the episode.
Mhm.
And he had a fun little TV Insider after show. Um, and was talking about, the episode and kind of how he felt on it. And he said that the episode extrapolates on the idea that you don't know if it's going to be funny or serious. Like that's kind of how the show's been going over all of these years. And so we're dealing with the romance side of it, the Chenford of it all. And then life can happen in the precinct and flips it. And it's kind of a life or death situation. And then he also talked about the rioting slash purge stuff, and he thought that was done really well. He said it was really effective and scary and felt like a situation that we don't want to be in. Definitely. I mean, those crowds coming at the officers, I was like, don't want to be in that. And then he also talked about Wesley's relationship with his boss, which is Eckert. I'm assuming, like, we never really had confirmation on if she actually won the like DA race. Like, is she now just his boss? What about
Oh,
Truco or Del Monte?
I don't know. I guess I didn't really think about it.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess we'll see. And so he was asked, like, do we trust her? And Sean was like, Wesley doesn't trust her. There's a power struggle, though, a power vacuum in the DA's office. And Sean said that he doesn't think she's a bad guy, but he thinks that she is just out for herself, creating scenarios that will take her to the top and potentially dethrone Del Monte. So I guess Del Monte's not gone. It was just like the way that it was worded made it seem like we already have lost Del Monte. Um, and then he also said what's interesting is that Wesley comes from the other side where he reluctantly became part of the DA because he feels like he can't make an effective change from the outside. And so he's not trying to climb the ladder. And he knows and understands the job that he has to do, but he isn't necessarily there to make it to the top. So he sees everything through the lens of what his prior position was in terms of a defense attorney. And then he also talked about Wesley's probably not interested in competing with her or campaigning against her. He wasn't gonna say that Wesley might not want that at some point, but like it might be something challenging for him to undertake because Wesley doesn't really get into the politics of it all. Um, and then he was also asked about Wesley and Angela and how they've really settled into the domesticity side of things, and they're just like an old married couple now. And Sean was talking about how he likes where Wesley and Angela are now. They've gone through all sorts of turmoil, and he thinks that they've earned a moment of peace and safety in their relationship, which they've definitely been getting this season for sure. And I kind of hope that it keeps up, but then yet I'm like, can we give him some more? Because I would like to see some more, you know,
Mhm.
more storyline with him. Not with him in danger, but just with him and Angela. Yeah, so that was it for the TV Insider interview.
Yeah. So Deadline had released an article earlier this week speculating about renewals for ABC shows, including The Rookie, saying that, with their good ratings, especially on Hulu, it looks favorable to be renewed alongside other ABC shows. So that's not a definite answer, but keep your
Yeah.
fingers crossed for season 8. So
This isn't the longest that we've went before we've had a renewal too. Remember? Because it was like
yeah,
our
that's true.
first year doing it,
Yeah,
where we were like, are we coming back? Or is
right.
this like 3 episodes and we're done? Like,
Yeah.
yeah. So I guess we'll see. I hope that we get a season 8. I mean, I feel like we will, but you never know. There was also a Screen Rant article with Sean. He talked about the episode as a whole and said that they walk the line between everyday and intense levels of stress that officers and first responders have to deal with, and that's what keeps the show interesting. He was also asked if he was surprised by the way that Wesley's case ended, and Sean had said that after the boardroom questioning, he could see where it was going, and it was fun. He loves the cases that Wesley has to call a favor into Angela. And he was saying that they love each other, but they're always reluctant to pull each other into like their cases. And he also talked about the scene where he's being blackmailed, quote unquote, and sending his wife and her partner to a spa retreat. But that's the fun that Lopez has. And Lopez was listed in the interview. So I need to know, did Sean call them Lopez in the interview, or did the writer, because the writer is a fan of the rookie too, did she just like write that in the article?
I mean, I think he's used Lopez before.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. It was just fun to see. And then he also said that that's what's really worked for Angela and Wesley is that they're very different people. They drive each other, a little crazy, but when you get down to it, their love is so strong that, their annoyance with each other is just so charming. He also touched on Monica coming back and if we get to see another face off between them this season. And Sean said that it's possible. He can't confirm anything. The writers do a really good job of bringing back and maintaining these threats in these characters' lives, even if we don't see them for a while. Okay. Okay. And then Sean also talked about the ongoing Chenford will they, won't they dynamic. And he mentioned the ice cream, which I totally forgotten about until he said it again in that interview. And I was like, oh, yeah, when he was sent all of that. Well, when they were all sent all of that for the breakup. And he was asked how he's feeling about their odds after the episode. He did say that he thinks their odds are pretty good. He also mentions that he shouldn't have posted about the ice cream because there were so many people internationally who hadn't caught up and were devastated and mad that like he spoiled it. And he was like, it's already aired, like it's out there. And I just thought that was funny. And then he also talked about Chenford's chances and said that they love each other, they're into each other, and he really likes the will they won't they and on and off again dynamic. He also said that he's curious just like everyone else to see where it goes, but he's feeling much better after this episode. So it gives us some hope. It gives us some
Mhm.
hope. He also talked about more Tim and Wesley scenes, and he would love to see Tim and Wesley come together. And one of his favorite Bradford lines was, "We put up with Wesley because we're scared of Angela." And Sean said that he has always liked that it says so much about Angela and also the familial bond that this group has with, you know. Um, and then Sean has said maybe Tim just needs to spend a little bit more time with Wesley and they need to become bros. Sean loves Eric and would love for the characters to spend more time together. I would just like to say I would too. I would too. I would like to petition that for season 8. Can we get like a sliver of Tim and Wesley together, please? Please. I
Yeah.
don't care if Angela's there. They could just be like talking about a case. I don't really care. Just give it to me. Just give it to me. And if they become bros, James needs to get into that circle too, because Wesley and him are already bros. So yeah, yeah. And then Sean also did a Give Me My Remote article it was pretty much the same as what's been said in all the other interviews, but he did say that, you know, similar to other seasons where department stuff happens, Wesley's just kind of there like on cleanup duty. Always walking in and telling them, stuff doesn't look too good, but they don't focus on it too much. And, they've handled department responsibility and sort of what happens after the fact. And, we've covered that and other things. Um, and he was like, it's always a little bit of follow-up, but not major. And I'm like, yeah, why can't we get more? Like, can he get more involved in a case somehow? Like, not a part of it in the sense of like what happened, but like involved in helping them solve it or something. I don't know. I was thinking like Carisi and Law and Order SVU, but then I'm like, he was a cop beforehand, so like he goes with them to like question suspects, which I don't know. I feel like that's the thing that like he should do, but also I don't know. Like I feel like he kind of oversteps the bounds, but I mean, can we get Wesley more involved like that somehow? Because I feel like we just need to see more of him. He usually just comes in and is like, yeah, it's not looking good, or I need this to build this. And it's like, we know that he can give us more, so let's bring him in more, you know? So yeah, that's about it for the Give Me My Remote article. It was pretty much just the same stuff as what's been shared in all the other interviews.
So the Hollywood Reporter put out that the Rookie's March 25th episode, which was last week's,
Mhm.
um, drew its largest audience of the season, and they had 8.25 million total viewers and 2.24 million adults in the 18 to 49 age, and apparently 43% of those viewers and 70% of the adult range came from streaming. So obviously Hulu is a big part of that.
Mhm.
Um, and the numbers were the most after 3 days since January 2023 during season five. The 8.25 million was the best since then. And the 18 to 49 age rating was the best since May of 2020 during the season two finale. So the network ratings have gone up overall this year, and then the 9 p.m. time slot that they switched to in February seems to be helping. So, yeah, more hopeful things. So hopefully the rookie just keeps trucking along, and we get that renewal. So
Yeah. I mean, I feel like that bodes well for renewal for
I
sure,
hope so.
especially moving to that 9 p.m. time slot after having the 8 p.m. one. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Um, I'm kind of surprised that it was last week's episode. Not that it was a bad episode, just I feel like there's been bigger episodes this season. So
I mean,
like
I think
I'm sure.
I don't know. I mean, because I know that the like actual Speed movie was like really popular.
Yeah.
So like, I don't know if maybe like Richard interview saying it was, an homage to that movie, like made people want to tune in
Yeah.
for it. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny too because 911 is actually having not even a similar-esque episode, like damn near the same episode this
Oh,
Thursday.
really?
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Um, and they share like storylines. I feel like it's kind of, like it's not one right after another, but it's kind of, similar in that different characters kind of have, the same stuff. So,
Mhm.
yeah. Um, there was also Matt's Inside Line that dropped today. And two questions were asked about the rookie, so that's fun. And Nash had asked, I figured on the rookie that Ridley's bad lying habit was going to catch up to him. I would like to know, was that the last we've seen of him, or will he pop up to cause more trouble down the line? Matt had asked Richard last week when he interviewed him if Seth might pop back up like a bad penny. And he affirmed after double checking with publicity, that story is done at this point. I thought we were going to get him back. but I guess not. We must have just been like going off of all that. And by we, I mean like the fandom collectively off of like the old content that we were getting. I don't know because I thought we were supposed to get them back. But with only
Yeah.
like 6 episodes left, I can see them just kind of being like, yeah, no, not anymore this season,
I
if
mean,
at all.
Melissa's post kind of seemed like to give a,
Like final.
yeah, like a finality to it all.
Yeah.
But who knows?
Yeah.
I mean, at least we know that like, Patrick has had like so much fun in the
Mhm.
behind the scenes with from Melissa's takeover thing from
Yeah.
Tuesday. And that was, and like obviously he's still gonna like post about the rookie
Yeah.
too. So
Yeah. Well, and
that's
like
good.
even this week, like he released like another little YouTube video and it was like him breaking down like the script and he was like,
Mhm.
these are all the notes I made and this is when I first met him. And I'm like, God, his detail is just so great. So great.
Yeah.
So, Ricarda, friend of the pod, also asked any idea if ABC will order another season of The Rookie. And Matt said, you'd better hope so. They do, given how Richard teased the finale, which is only in 6 episodes. The finale is a big episode once again. We've got the FBI coming in, Agent Garza, and Richard had said, I think people are going to be very happy, but it's one of those cliffhangers where you're like, oh my goodness, when is it coming back?
Oh God.
I need to know. I need to know.
Uh, oh man.
I can't wait until after the finale airs to know if we're coming back.
Oh
Also,
goodness.
like, I mean, season premieres and finales are always big. I mean, we know that, but like,
Yeah.
big in what way?
Yeah.
I need to know. Is there characters in peril? Because if so, oh my gosh, I hope we don't get another mid-season premiere. I hope so. And I probably just put that out there and jinx us. But I hope so. Like, especially if the finale is so big, I don't want them to be pushed to mid-season. Like, give me that in September. So,
Yeah. Well, guess we'll see.
yeah. Yeah. And with that, we'll just get right into the episode because it's a long one. Um,
Mhm.
yeah. So we'll start off with the April Fool's prank and Citywide Chaos. So Tim's like seeing this long line of civilians waiting at the police services and traffic violations window, and Officer Kate is there. Love her. Love that she's had like kind of a recurring role this season. Like we've seen her a couple of times. And I'm like, I want to see her in the roll call room now with everyone. Like, come on. Let's add her to the fold. Um, and apparently their social media intern posted that it was parking ticket amnesty day, and to just bring in their ticket and all will be forgiven. Okay. So Tim tells all of the civilians that it was an April Fool's joke and they still have to pay their tickets. He's like, I'm not partaking in any of this. I will be the Scrooge. And so, he's like, you're in the right spot though. And the line disappears, including the guy that was in the front talking to the officer. And Tim's like, really? You're really gonna leave right now? So they have to take down that post, otherwise more lines will start forming, obviously. Tim walks into the empty office to see a young college student kicked back with her feet on the desk and her phone in her hand. And she tells Tim that if he's there looking for help to set up a TikTok account, it's not her job. He says social media is the worst of us. That line, I was like, this is pure gold. Pure gold being spoken to Eric because like, I mean, he was so hesitant on getting on TikTok and now he's like the king of it on the rookie cast. So it was just so funny. And he brings up the post that she did, and she asks him if it was a fire, if it was fire, like she had thought. This entire sequence, he was like trying to become Gen Z, but like couldn't get there. Um, and she's like, "Is it fire?" And he's like, "No, this is a fire that has to be put out now." Like he was not understanding what she was saying. And so he asks who approved it, and she's like, the captain gave me a long leash to increase the social following. I have so many questions based on this storyline because I've done some social media for work. especially for a police station, aren't they approving the stuff that's being put out?
I mean, you
Like,
would think so. You'd think there'd be a public information officer and a,
yeah.
PR person and whatnot.
Like, I get that it's April Fool's and I get that you're supposed to have some fun with it, but like, pretty sure for the LAPD, they wouldn't just like joke about stuff. And that like the social media intern would have more like guidance and support. It was just wild. It was wild. And so people take their post seriously, like, don't they? Well, they do in this episode. So Tim goes off on her with the whole like parking ticket situation and is like, it needs to be taken down. And she's like, your vibe needs work. Like it does not work out for me. And Tim's like, oh my God, I'm leaving right now. And she's like, there's an art to giving criticism. And, she likes to start with giving a compliment, gently delivers the no, and then ends with a compliment, like a feel-good sandwich. I'm like, oh my God, Tim Bradford hates all of this. He tells her to delete the tweet, and she's like, oh, a dirty delete will get us canceled, but I can issue an apology statement with something cute. And he's like, fine, just get it done. And she's annoyed and she's like, this could have been an email. Yeah, she's not meant to work at the police station, like with the first responders.
It's
So
just like too real.
yeah,
It's like so
yeah,
meta. It's scary.
it really is. It really is. So Tim walks up to another officer and a suspect who's getting out of line. And apparently the social media intern has now posted about a get out of jail free card on social media. And the suspect was like, this officer is not honoring it. Tim then walks into the break room. The social media intern is getting some snacks, and she tells him raising your voice in a workplace is a sign of weakness, not strength. I'm like, this is not the time, and this is not the man to be saying that to. And so she's like, I couldn't just delete the parking ticket tweet. It screams scandal. So I had to retract it with something that's clearly a joke. Yeah, okay. He tells her it's not funny. And she's like, it's clear on the post that it's an April Fool's joke. She zooms in and it's tiny font, like a little disclaimer. And Tim's like, no one can read that.
Yeah.
She then calls him a boomer. And he's like, a boomer? This entire like
Mm,
sequence with the social media intern and Tim was hysterical.
right. I mean, yeah. No, I just, oh God, it was just too much.
You know that Tamara has like not schooled him, but like taught him, like boomer and Gen Z and millennial. Like that she's had to. So she calls him a boomer, and then she tells him to go find his glasses. I'm
Mm,
like, oh my God. She says it's not her fault though. The Delulus didn't even scan the QR code. Okay, you can't even scan a QR code if you're on your phone viewing it though. Like, how are you going to scan that QR code?
that's true. I didn't think
As
about that.
as a social media intern and as someone who's young and has grown up with QR codes, wouldn't she know that? Like,
That's very true. I didn't think about that.
so then she shows them what would have been seen if they would have scanned the QR code, and it's the Grumpy Cop screenshot from earlier this season.
Right, with like the LOL or whatever, like
Yeah,
underneath it. And I was like, oh my God.
yeah. They had brought that, the rookie account had posted that. And I was like,
Yeah,
okay, that's kind of odd that they're posting that. So I didn't put two and two together, but I missed
yeah,
that too on the first watch. And then on the rewatch, I got it. And I was like, oh, that's gold. That's
yeah.
gold. So then Tim fires her for wasting the department's time and resources, which valid. And, she's like, I don't see the problem with any of this. And she's like, you can't fire me. I'm a civilian employee. And he gets snarky and he's like, you're right, I can't. But the Office of Support Services did. And they were happy to let me be the one to tell you that you're gone. He tells her to pack up her stuff and be grateful she's not leaving the room in handcuffs.
Nope.
No, not yet, at least not yet. So Tim gets a notification then later on in the episode, and the social media intern has posted that the city of LA for the next 3 hours all crime is legal. To go nuts and don't call us with two peace signs and an emoji wearing sunglasses. I love how Tim like explained the emojis to Lucy and Selena.
Yeah, as if they couldn't see them
Yeah,
themselves.
yeah. And at this point, I was like, yeah, no one revoked her access. Like, I get it. Okay, Tim like didn't know what all needed to be done. But she just like walks out and still has the LAPD Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, like whatever, all on her phone.
Right. Well, you'd think that like the Office of Support Services or whatever, like would have, I don't know, like if she got like a city issued phone or something, or
Yeah,
even if not, like make her delete the apps before she leaves because it
yeah,
obviously causes problems
yeah,
next. So,
yeah. So all of the officers are called into the roll call room, and Libby made the post before changing the passwords. And they can't take them down until IT hacks into the account. So like she's also changed the passwords. She's locked them out of these accounts. And Tim's like, 911 is already getting swamped with calls, lootings, robbery, and a host of assaults. So they're on citywide tactical alert with mandatory holdover until further notice. Wesley comes in and he's like, it's pretty bad. It's pretty bad. The police told me I could do it on the internet is not going to stand up in court, but there will be lawsuits, especially from crime victims who claim that their injuries were caused by the LAPD posting this. And so Wesley is like, make sure that all of your arrests have criminal elements, the evidence is solid, the reports are spotless. So then we cut over and just like all hell is breaking loose in LA. Like fires are being started, motorcycles are like racing down the streets, people are masked. It's just all kinds of craziness. So Nolan and Craig is Nolan's rookie for the episode, are driving and they see a Jeep race by at like 90 miles an hour. That says eat the rich spray painted on it. And a masked criminal is hanging out of the window like a dog. Like literally like got his head hanging out the window. And Craig's like, should we go after them? And Nolan's like, no, Gray wanted us to focus on crimes against people and we can get their license plates from dash cams later. So, we kind of I'll talk about more about their call in like a minute, but um Tim's driving and Libby calls asking for help and Tim's like, "Well, so does the rest of LA because of you. So you're going to have to call 911." And she's like, "I can't get them. I'm trapped under a desk at the municipal building and there are people with guns inside the clerk's office." And he's like, "All right, stay low, stay quiet and like I'll be there as quick as I can be." So he calls for backup. Tim, Lucy, and Selena are all in their tactical gear with backup, and they're going through this building. So they hear someone in the bathroom. Lucy finds her and tells her where to go for safety. All's going good, but they come in contact with someone, and Tim takes a shot, killing that person. And then someone else gets them with smoke from behind, and Chenford and Selena are getting hit from all sides at this point. So Chenford keeps going and they go to the bullpen where the clerks would ideally sit. And Livy comes out of hiding. She's like underneath a desk, like behind a desk door or something. And so, more suspects come out. One even pulls Livy and like kidnaps her in a way. And Tim tells Lucy to go save her. Tim ends up pepper spraying a guy, taking him down. Lucy looks for Livy. They're like in a stairwell at this point, and she comes across a criminal who's burning case files. This is before she actually gets to the stairwell. And Lucy asks if he's seen Livy. This criminal is like, and you get to go, and you get to go. And I'm like, okay, he must have a case in there because he's just like burning these files. And so Lucy asks if he saw Livy and the kidnapper. And she's like, here, put these on. SWAT's coming. Like, it's best if you just restrain yourself and sit down. And so Lucy's going through the stairwell. Olivia tells her to look out. She ends up stopping a door from being open and knocks the guy out. Like, it was badass Lucy Chen moment right there. So they get Livy. Tim ends up arresting her. And she's like, why are you arresting me? Like, I was held hostage. Doesn't that account for something? And Tim's like, no, you were at the clerk's office filing a wrongful termination lawsuit against the LAPD after instigating mass violence. No, you're not just going to be let off the hook. And she's like, I'm not the victim here. And Tim's like, you caused all of this. Like, and so Livy apologizes as they walk out, and Tim's like, for what? Like, I have no feel-good sandwich here for you. And, he's like, people are dead because of your recklessness. You're lucky you're not one of them. And she's like, I didn't think that anyone was going to take this seriously. What did you think was going to happen? Like,
Yeah.
some people were going to take it seriously. I don't know. It's just wild. It's wild. But then what's even crazier is one of my local police departments posted about get out of jail free cards on April Fool's Day. Like I saw it today. And I was like, interesting. They did this on Valentine's Day too with the like X thing that Chenford did. I was
Mhm.
like, yeah, okay. We're here.
Yeah.
Are imitating life here. So
Right.
yeah, that's about it on the whole like citywide chaos thing. It was kind of wild. There was just a lot going on. And it didn't
Mhm.
really ramp up until like the second half of the episode. So,
Yeah.
yeah. Do you
Yeah.
want to take us through the Wesley stuff?
Yeah, so we see Wesley walking and talking with Eckert, and he asked if the Ben Dover email he received was real or just a prank. And it's no joke, it's a real case, and Vivian dropped it off to Wesley because the guy that was on the case before like got food poisoning or something. And he's like, I hate you for this. And she knows, and she says they'll, go back to being besties soon enough. And Wesley says, my wife is my bestie. And I was like, that's so cute.
As she should be. As she
Right?
should be.
Yeah.
I expect
Um,
nothing less.
right, for sure. So now Wesley has to decide whether or not this case is winnable for the office by, well, it like originally it seemed like by end of day, but pretty much it's like in a couple hours, more or less.
Mhm.
And then so we see him call Angela and ask for a favor. And then next we see Angela and Nyla come into the DA's office, and Wesley gives them the case file to read over. He, promises them lunch at a like some fancy place, for their help and stuff. And so Ben was seen by a witness apparently murdering some man in a parking garage and then dumping the gun into the garbage like nearby or something. And of course they find this gun, and um you know they think that they should bring in the witness to see what she knows, to see how credible she is. And when they talk to her, it turns out she appears to be coached by the lead detective on the case, as Detective Berman. And so this could also explain why he didn't answer Wesley's calls earlier in the episode, which is why he ended up calling Angela in the first place, because he needed help and he doesn't have time to waste.
Mhm.
And so they get Wesley to, again, just Angela's like playing the wife card so well
Yeah.
in getting, lunch at the fancy restaurant that they're going to do a spa weekend, to like keep going on this case. Um, and so that was pretty great. And I loved Wesley's reply to Nyla too. He was like, by your partner, you mean my wife.
Mhm.
I was like,
Yeah.
Angela can be both your wife and Nyla's detective partner. Like, that's
Yeah.
fine. Um, yeah, so it was just funny. Um, and so a little bit later, we see Berman storms, like, is like storming off to, Nyla and Angela, wondering, what the hell they're doing to his case. And Nyla's kind of like telling him to back off, and he tells Nyla to go screw herself. And I'm like, dude, you do not say that to like anyone, but especially not them.
Yeah. I loved how Nyla and Angela though were holding their own. They were like
Right,
when he went after Nyla, Angela was like, "Okay, we're not doing this anymore." And like
right.
vice versa. It was so good.
Yeah.
So good.
Um, yeah. And so Angela says that they're gonna go interview the widow and see what she has to say. they would invite him, but he can go screw himself. So it's like kind of a, that's what you get for messing with them kind of thing. Um, so it was just, yeah, like, yeah, just classic Angela and Nyla.
Hmm.
Um, and he kind of seemed like Angela said that he seemed kind of freaked out by like when they said they were essentially going to keep digging on this case. So they're, going to do just that and find out why he's a little scattered about things. Um, and so towards the end of the episode, we see Arca filling Gray in, telling him that they called Berman down under the guise of helping with the like purge event that's going on.
Yeah.
But he's tipped off and he tries to flee in his car. But luckily, Angela and Nyla like shoot at him through the windshield and make him put his hands up. And obviously, they're taking him into custody. And apparently, this whole thing was because he was having an affair with the victim's wife. And so he killed his competition and blackmailed the witness to say it was like, this man, as Wesley puts it, with the, unfortunate name of Ben Dover. So it's, yeah, that was, I mean, pretty much it. It was like a weird case that really could only happen. It's just so appropriate for April Fool's
Yeah.
episode. So
Yeah. It definitely is. Yeah. So we then have John's TO skills, and he's assigned a new rookie who literally has 1 month left in his rookie period. Um And Connor Craig introduces himself to Nolan, and he's like, I'll be riding with you for the last month of my program. And Nolan's like, this is an April Fool's prank, isn't it? Like, no one transfers in their last month, maybe 6 months in, but no one transfers with 1 month left. And Craig's like, it's not a prank. But John's still not convinced. And, Nolan even goes to talk to Gray about it. And Gray's like, no, it's not a joke. I just forgot to tell you. And Nolan's like, yeah, okay, because, you've been playing this off for like 5 years that you don't like pranks. So why wouldn't you prank me over this? So Gray tells him that Craig's record is exemplary and spotless, and all he has to do is write it out with him for these last 30 days and not screw it up. And he'll be credited for turning out a second top-notch rookie. And Gray tells him to not screw it up again. And no one's like, wait, you already said that. And Gray's like, I know. I'm like, yeah, because he has to tell you more than twice, actually, at this point. Nolan's still unsure about it, still thinking that it's a prank. I like that it's sitting with him all episode. It's kind of reminiscent
right.
of when he saw the James and Kylie kiss, and that's like sitting with him all episode. John Nolan is just an overthinker. Let's be real. He's an overthinker, which I relate. So, yeah. So everyone's in the roll call room, and Gray all but admits that he hates April Fool's Day. So Penn's out for trial prep. So Tim is the go-to supervisor for the day. And announces that Nolan has a new rookie. So Gray shares that Craig was trained under the legendary Sergeant McAdams and has earned top marks. And so Nolan and Craig are on patrol, and Craig's driving, apparently for the first time too, or he just hasn't drove it much at least. And driving the shop is a required element of training. And Craig says McAdams did enough to evaluate him, but driving was his domain. So Craig never really drove, and Nolan's like, fine, he's a legend. I'll defer to his judgment, but I still have to evaluate you fully. So they start with traffic stop procedures, which is like an relatively easy task for a
You
rookie.
would think.
Yeah, you would think. But Craig goes to make a turn and it's the wrong one. So a little chaos is already created. Like he can't even get to the traffic stop first. So John's like, now I see why McAdams drove. Um, so Nolan and Craig are at the traffic stop and he's letting Craig take the reins. He's struggling with his pen and, Selena and Lucy pull up and they're like, we heard you needed backup. And Nolan's like, no, I needed witnesses to witness this. And we see Craig drop papers. He then bends over and knocks his head into the car door. It like literally bounces off. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
And they agree with Nolan that he's definitely being punked. And at this point, I'm like, no, maybe he is. Like, even Seth wasn't like this. And Seth was
Right.
not a good rookie. So
No.
Selena plays devil's advocate, and she's like, maybe he's just nervous about impressing you.
Hmm.
So Craig then walks up and he's like, yeah, I got the ticket. Like, I wrote it all out. And Nolan shows Selena and Lucy the ticket. Craig made it out to himself.
I don't
Sweet
know how
little
you do
Connor
that.
Craig. Huh?
Yeah. I don't know how you do that.
Yeah, I don't either. I don't either. But I'm like, okay. So Craig's like, I'm a little rusty. My last TO wasn't into traffic enforcements. Isn't that like an easy-ish thing though for cops?
You would think so.
I mean, and we find out later why, but I'm like, okay, that's just, I mean, I'm sure that nothing is easy for them, but like when it comes to like, clearing a building versus that, I would think this is easier. So Selena retracts her comment about the nerves, and Lucy and her are like, we gotta go, bye. I loved it. I need more of them driving. Like, I thought we were gonna get more in this episode, but we did. And I need more of it. More of it.
Yeah.
More Tim and Wesley and more Selena and Lucy, please. So Nolan and Craig go back to get in the shop, and Craig starts to walk over to the passenger side, and Nolan's like, what are you doing? You're driving today. And he gestures to the driver's side, and Craig's like, sorry, old habit. I'm like, okay. Maybe he is like someone who's claiming to be a rookie. So they get a call for a domestic case and pull up to Teddy and Anita's house, the couple we met at the Valentine's Day episode in the gala. And Nolan has Craig tell him that he has Craig tell him that he's handled domestic disputes before, but really he hasn't. Craig's like, I just told you that because that's what you wanted to hear. And, you know, Craig's like, I'm excited to experience my first one with you. And so Nolan's like, okay, I'm going to tell you about the Gambit acronym for domestic disputes. So they walk up to the front door. Craig like doesn't even think about it. He like looks and doesn't think twice about where to stand, nothing. And Nolan's like, it's always a good idea to stand on the side of the door in case of potential gunfire. Yeah. And so Teddy opens the door with a bottle in his hand, and he looks back to Anita questioning if she called them, and she's like, no, I didn't. And John doubles down that they received multiple calls about a disturbance, and they just wanted to make sure that everything was all right. So Teddy's like, you're not getting in my house without a warrant. So John brings up the first step of Gambit, which is G, get inside. And he has Craig explain that they don't need a warrant to investigate domestic violence and that they hate to disturb them, but by law, they can't just leave until they resolve it. I loved how Nolan was like, okay, explain this to them. But like Teddy and Anita were standing right there, and like Craig was like, I'm not gonna explain anything. Like John ended up doing the explaining. So Craig questions what happens if Teddy slams the door on them. And John's like, well, we'd have to destroy it and then arrest him. So Teddy lets them in with a 2-minute timer and like metaphorical timer. And so Nolan mentions that they look familiar and wonders if they've met. And she's like, yeah, I'm a friend of James and Nyla's. So he goes back to instructing Craig, and step two is M, which is to make it safe. So he asks Craig if he sees anything unsafe, and Craig just looks around and looks back to Nolan. And Nolan mentions the bottle in Teddy's hand and says, someone, not Teddy, might use the bottle as a weapon, which would mean that they would have to use force, and they don't want to do that. So Nolan gets the bottle from him. Anita tries to diffuse the situation, telling them that, Teddy just lost his job and it's been a tough week. And Teddy's like, stop telling everyone our business all the time. So John tells Craig the third step is B, which is be observant, so they can investigate. And Teddy has clearly had too much to drink, and Anita's upset. So Nolan has Craig go talk to Anita in another room to figure out what happened. So before Anita walks out, Teddy tells her to say nothing about nothing. And Anita, starts explaining Teddy to Craig, telling him that, he's never hit her, but she's scared of him. and she's tired of being scared. So Craig's like, all right, well, we can take care of him today, but if this continues, like, you can always call us, giving her a card with the resources to help her get away. So John says the last step is T, take appropriate action. And Craig tells Teddy and Nolan that, Anita wants him to leave, but she's afraid. And so Teddy's like, well, she'll just have to be afraid then. It's not a crime to tie one on in my own house. I know my rights. No, like, don't let her be afraid. That's so, oh my gosh, it's so bad. This dude was raising red flags from day one. So John reiterates that they're concerned he's a danger to himself and others, and he's gonna have to go with them. No criminal charges will be, brought down or anything like that, but just to see a nurse and so he can sober up and cool down alone. And so Craig searches Teddy, escorts him out to the shop. Teddy then pulls away when Craig goes to handcuff him and says, like, don't touch me. I pay your salary. And Craig's on the ground with a bloody nose. So Nolan takes Teddy to the ground, cuffs him, and says, there will be criminal charges now. So we then see Nolan talking to Gray about Craig. And Gray's like, I can't understand this. On paper, he's a rock star trainee. Like, all of his daily observation papers are signed off. His checklist is practically complete. And, Nolan's like, no, there's significant holes in his training. His officer safety and perception of danger is non-existent. He struggled with a basic traffic citation. And Gray's like, I still can't believe it. McAdams is a highly respected FTO. He would have done his due diligence and training, but Nolan's like, there's no way he's going to be ready in a month. He might not even make it to the end of the day. So Nolan questions what he should do. And Gray's like, it's your call, but you should think twice before bouncing him because because of Nolan training a stellar first rookie, if he's handed an LAPD Legends trainee and he fails in a week, the captain will probably think that it's Nolan, like Nolan is the problem. So he asks again if Gray's sure this isn't a prank. Like, he's still bent up about this, and Gray's like, no, it's not. So Nolan like meets up with Sergeant McAdams at the hospital. They like go to search him out, and he talks about Craig and how he's noticed some gaps in his training. McAdams like motions to the body camera, telling him that he was supposed to retire last year and stayed on as a favor to his captain. So, but like Craig showed up and had no instincts, no fire, no command presence, nothing. And so when asked why not just bounce him, McAdams was like, I didn't want to go out as a failure, so I carried him and only took on low impact calls. What were the low impact calls though? Like, that's what I really want to know. And he had the seniority to pull it off. So like no one thought twice of it. And Nolan's like, but you did check it out in the end because you forced the transfer. So you wouldn't be the one who would put an untrained cop on the streets. And so Nolan goes back over to Craig, and Craig's like, I'm getting bounced, aren't I? And Nolan's like, yeah, you should, but I'm gonna give you the rest of the day to prove yourself. And so Nolan and Craig see Anita and Teddy come out of the station. She bailed him out and is apologizing for it taking so long. She tells him, she didn't sell him out. Sometimes he can just be so scary though. And he calls her weak and tells her to give him the keys. And so Craig's like, what should we do? And Nolan's like, the best we can hope for is that she uses one of those resources on that card that you gave her. So like in the middle of the episode, we see the Citywide Tactical Alert come through, and Craig is eager to jump in. Nolan's like, no, I'm gonna leave you at the station. Like, I can't trust you out there. You're a wild card, and whatever I face out there, I can't be having to worry about you too. And Craig makes this point, and he's like, I understand, but like, you're no better than McAdams if you do this. And Nolan stops, and he's like, you're right. You're right. And so Craig's like, I won't let you down. And no one's like, I'm not worried about myself. My wife's a ninja warrior assassin, and if she ends up a widow because of him, there won't be enough of him left to fit in a bucket. And I'm like, yeah, I wouldn't want to be on the receiving end of Bailey with that.
Oh, I thought that line was so funny. Nathan's delivery was just spot on.
Uh-huh. And he was just so serious about it too. Like
Right.
so matter of fact. Craig goes to laugh and Nolan's like, that's not a joke. Like, that's not a joke. This everything going on today might be a joke, but that one's not. So during the citywide mayhem, Craig and Nolan get a call about shots fired in the alley by Anita and Teddy's address. So they respond to the call. They pull up to the location, dispatch is shared. Streetlights are broken. Craig and Nolan get out of the shop to see Teddy's gone. He's DOA. His watch is still on though, so it wasn't a robbery, but the glass is shattered. And so Craig's like, Anita did this. Like she had to have, right? And so they're gonna have to find her. So Nolan checks on the house, and has Craig stay at the crime scene. And he's like, I need you to block off the end of the alley with the crime scene tape, use the shop to block off the other end. And Nolan's like, take pictures of everything, even if it doesn't look important. So John goes to pound on the door. Anita seems out of it. She's like, or he asks if she knows where Teddy is, and she's like, he dropped me off and left. He must have went to some bar. And no one's like, have you been drinking? Because like the bourbon helps her relax after a long day and she's been scared. So he has Anita come with him. They go back to the crime scene, but he keeps Anita at a distance so she can't see what's going on. So Greg has turned the shop around, or Craig has turned to the shop around and mentions the victim's driver's seat and an empty glass, but mostly the driver's seat is suspicious. And no one's like, okay, why? The seat was moved all the way forward. And we saw Teddy move it back at the station. So whoever put the car back in position was short, like Anita short. So she staged it, and Craig has figured all of this out. He's so proud of himself. He also adds that she's a suspect. The house is also a crime scene. And so he said, I turned the shop around in case, you wanted to put her inside so she wouldn't have to see her husband. So John asks about the glass, and it's sitting on the ledge with traces of bourbon in it. So Craig took pictures but didn't bag it for evidence. And then he doesn't really finish that sentence, but then a crowd comes in and demands that they have the area. So Anita then sees Teddy lying on the ground and she's like, I want you guys to protect me. Like, let them have the area. And after being told to get in the shop twice, she ends up running. So like she's guilty of this. I mean also like she's in danger. So Craig's gonna go follow her, but Nolan's like, don't worry about her. We'll catch up to her later. So Nolan and Craig are at a standoff with an angry crowd, and Craig goes to reach for his gun. John tells him to stand down. If they don't see weapons, they shouldn't use deadly force. So they pull out their batons. John calls for backup, but the closest unit is 12 minutes away, so they're on their own. Um, the crowd just wants the vehicle, and Nolan and Craig don't budge. Instead, they take someone down, and Nolan tells Craig, like, get the gloves, grab the glass. We're gonna run and circle back later. So they make a run for it. The crowd takes over, busting the windshield of the shop, just destroying it. At this point, we need to just start keeping a tally for how many shops John Nolan has gotten destroyed. And
I mean, it has to be like 3 or 4.
some of it's like not even his fault. Some
Right.
of it, not all of it, but some of it. So, Nolan and Craig are talking with Gray, and Nolan's, talking about Craig's accomplishments and findings. And Gray's catching up because the rioters took over the crime scene and Nolan's shop was destroyed yet again. And Nolan's like, yeah, but Anita and the case overall. And Nolan throws in that the criminals took selfies with Teddy, the corpse, and that they'll be easier to identify and arrest. So, yeah, that's where we're at with that. But Anita was just picked up at Union Station trying to get on a train to Flagstaff. So they're bringing her in now, and at least they'll be able to question her for that. So Gray asks Craig if everything he's seen that night is the career still something that he wants to pursue. And Craig says that it's all he's ever dreamed about, but he believes helping people is his calling. And Gray's like, or he promises Gray that he won't regret it if he gives them a proper chance to prove it. Um, and Gray's like, I will endorse your continuation, but I'm going to have you reassigned to a quieter division to make sure that you have the best opportunity to succeed. Probably best. But I would have liked to keep him. Like he was a cutie. And I liked just his, I don't know, just his like eagerness with it. Um, and then Craig thanks Nolan for giving him a second chance, and Nolan's like, you stepped up when it mattered, and even though you're transferring out, like I'm always here as a resource for you to reach out to. So
Yeah.
that's where we left off with the whole Nolan and Craig stuff. So it was good. I feel like it was a lot to put in to this episode, but it kind of mostly happened in the first half and then like
Yeah.
wrapped up. So yeah. Now
Right.
we're gonna get to the best and probably shortest part.
Right. Yeah, it is rather short.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so we're obviously talking about Chenford. Um, and so Lucy shows up at Tim's house saying that, since it's April Fool's Day, nothing counts. They can pretend to be back together and essentially fool everyone at work. Um, and, like they're making out or whatever. And Tim like pauses for God knows what reason. And he's like,
Yeah.
he's been doing April Fool's wrong his whole life, apparently. And then he questions what the actual prank is. And Lucy basically tells him that like they could debate that or they could get back to getting busy.
Yeah.
And, so yeah, the door closes and then presumably they hook up, after it's 12:01 a.m. on April 1st. So that's just in the cold open. So that was pretty fun.
Hmm.
Um and so later we see like a little bit later at work, Tim and Lucy are sitting next to each other in the roll call room and he wonders how they're gonna pull this off. And Lucy's basically tells him not to worry and brushes her hand against his. And of course, Selena sees this and like she sees it across the way in the roll call room later when they're riding together. Um, she asks Lucy if she had sex, and she claims that she didn't, but her aura is glowing, according to Selena. But she did say she was feeling extra sparkly today, for whatever that's worth. Like, I don't know. It was just so random to me. I was like, all right, that's what you're
Yeah.
going with to cover that up. All right.
I love that
Um,
Selena was clocking all of this. Like
oh
she
yeah,
was the one that was clocking it all.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Selena tries to kind of get it out of her, like, saying that she can keep her secret, but Lucy doesn't divulge the prank, even though Selena's still very much suspicious of it. Um, and then we get, I'm pretty sure like the thing that everyone like was waiting for
Yeah.
ages and ages of like a Chenford makeout session at work. I think in Tim's old office, question mark. I don't
I'm
know.
gonna go with it. I'm gonna go with it. It
I
was
mean, it was
just from
some
a
like
different
abandoned
angle.
office. Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't know. Um, and Tim, again, I don't know why this man like insists on talking like
He
during all these
always
things.
he always wants to talk.
Right?
Always.
I mean, like, I don't guess I don't blame him, but like at the same time, it's just cracking me up because Lucy like gives no ifs, ands
Yeah.
about it. She's just like wants to just keep this charade
Yeah.
up, and it's just so funny because he's, you know, noting that they didn't even do this when they were actually together. And Lucy says that that's because there wasn't a deadline. Um, and then wonders if they've been doing this for long enough. And I mean, the one like good, I guess, like funny thing for Tim to actually reply to that is, maybe a little longer. So obviously he's fine with what
Yeah.
they're doing too. Um, and so we see them, kiss a little bit more before Lucy decides they should go do things
Hmm.
like stop crime, maybe, you know, just
I
a
love
little
how
bit
she
of
was
police
just
work.
like so cute and innocent. Like she hasn't
Right,
just been making out in the station with her supervisor, no
right,
less. Like
right.
so good. I'm convinced that this joke was more for her just to like not have any rules. Like she like framed it as a prank just so that he would like believe it and go along with it.
Yeah,
But she was like, no, like I just want to have my cake and eat it too, you know?
yeah. which
So
is definitely like not what I expected from Lucy, but then at the same time, I feel like she just really kind of like in those romance novels, like if you
yeah,
have the like they just need to get it out of their systems kind of thing,
yeah,
like a little bit of that. Like I think she just literally just wants that physical
yeah,
relationship with him
yeah,
again. But doesn't want all the emotional attachment because she doesn't want to
yeah,
get hurt again, that kind of thing.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
but
because
it's just so funny.
she was the one that was like initiating all of it. Like Tim was
Right.
like, we
Yeah.
don't have to, like,
Yeah.
you know. And
Yeah.
she's like, no, like I think it would be fun to do. So that's why I'm
Right.
like, yeah, it was definitely more for her so that she didn't have
Yeah.
to talk. She didn't have to,
Right.
like own up to anything. But it was just like it was so funny and it was even more hilarious how Selena clocked it all.
Oh
Like
yeah, for sure.
so good. So good.
Yeah. And so, they do eventually leave the room. They kiss like one more time real quick, and Tim apparently tells her to fix her shirt
Yeah.
like on the way out. And of course they run into Selena, who obviously wonders what they were doing. Um, but they don't say, and they pretty much act like nothing happened. Um, and obviously that like I'm sure there would have been more to that scene had the social media notice not come up on Tim's phone,
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
I
but
love how
anyway,
Selena was like, do you need to talk about anything else with Tim in private? It was like, you
right,
even know that they weren't talking in private. Like, let's be real.
right. Yeah. And so we see Chenford like in the main area of the station. They're getting ready to presumably head out, and they stop to talk to Nolan for a minute. Before Gray yells for them to come into his office. And he basically is like chastising them for getting back together, especially with Tim being Lucy's superior. Um, and they said they couldn't fight their feelings anymore before literally a second later
Mhm.
laughing and saying April Fool. Like they
Yeah.
couldn't even hold it together long enough
Yeah.
for that. Um, and Gray proceeds to have a heart attack. Really, it's a fake heart attack though to get back at them for their prank. And I mean, like, oh my God, just and they bought it like hook, line, and
Uh-huh.
sinker. Lucy was, Tim told her to, like call for,
Yeah.
ambulance or whatever, and then Gray just laughs, and it's just I don't just because Richard has such a distinct laugh, it's
Yeah.
just great to like just hear. I don't
Yeah.
know, because you can't really separate like that from the
Yeah.
actor versus character.
Well, and Gray
Um,
doesn't like really laugh a whole lot. So,
no,
yeah.
no,
I
yeah,
love how he was like, gotcha. Like,
right, yeah, yeah. He doesn't like pranks, but he'll
yeah.
do it if he can, like, be one step ahead of
Yeah.
everyone.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Um, so they do eventually get to like leave for real. And they're moving so fast. And Lucy's like checking her watch, counting down. They have 55 minutes left, and Tim's house is 30 minutes away. They're moving so fast, like poor Selena's like running to catch up to them,
Yeah.
and she like can't even. And Lucy's zooming out of the station with Tim, and Selena kind of like calls after her, like, where are you going? And she's like, home, see you there. But obviously, she's not
Yeah.
going home. And
Yeah.
Selena, simply is staying back and says, she knows that there's something going on
Yeah.
between them.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and that's where we end with that. So
Mhm.
it was, I mean, I think I said this earlier before we started recording. It was like an alternate universe. Like if someone were to
Yeah.
write a fan fiction AU supposedly
Yeah.
for Chenford or something.
Yeah.
That's kind of like what it seemed like a little bit.
Hmm.
But I mean, I didn't mind it. I
It
didn't, I
was
mean, like, I
funny.
don't know.
It was funny. I
Yeah,
do
it was
wonder
funny.
if this leads them to have the talk, quote unquote,
Yeah,
or like, does it bring up more feelings for Lucy or something? Like, I gotta believe that this is another stepping stone for them, and it's not just like, oh, it's a fun storyline for them. Like
right.
this has to be another stepping stone for them.
I
Otherwise,
would think so.
why did we have it?
Yeah,
But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I feel like this has got to bring up the talk. And then I also want to see like the next morning, when Lucy's like at home making breakfast or whatever, and Selena's like, "You did not come home right away because
Right.
I went home right away and you did not." So yeah, I loved it. And like I just thought it was funny. I don't know. I feel like the episode description made it seem like it was a prank on the entire station, but it was like
Right.
just on Gray, really. Because like Selena knows something's up, but like she doesn't know
Right.
that it was a prank. So I'm like,
Right.
why did we say we were pranking everyone at the station or like however it was alluded, but didn't
Mhm.
really only pranked Gray. And I want to know how Gray found out about it. Or did he just like assume that that was going to be their prank?
Yeah, I mean, I would think that they weren't being as subtle in the roll call room as they thought they were
Yeah.
being. So I'm pretty sure he would have noticed
Yeah.
something then too, probably.
Yeah. Because if Selena caught it, then like Gray had to have.
Right.
So yeah. We do have some listener thoughts. So Lugene had said the Chenford uniform kiss has been on my bucket list for so long, and I was so surprised to see it happen. Same. I just wish it would have. I mean, I'm glad that it happened now, but I wish it would happen when they were like actually together.
Right.
Not that it like mattered, because I
Yeah.
feel like that's what it would have been like if they were together.
Yeah.
Um, they also said Selena was totally onto them the whole time and it was hilarious. I feel like it couldn't have been anyone else besides Selena who was on it to
Yeah.
them. So, Grace's reaction to them dating being a prank was totally my reaction too. We didn't end with the Balin scene. No, Bailey was
Oh
not
my
in this
God.
episode. She just had one mention.
Right. Yeah.
But next week is going to be a big Balin episode, I feel.
Mhm.
They also said this one was definitely one of my top favorite episodes. It was good. It was good.
Yeah.
And then Annette had said, "Great's hilarious, big fan of him." And then they said, "I've also seen a lot of stuff on Twitter about how everyone's feeling. And I've seen that it feels like Lucy's out of character. Loved seasons 3 through 5, especially for both Chenford and Lucy's character, but I do feel like something's missing. I just feel like she's having her fun, you know,
Yeah.
like I don't know. I feel like there's just a shift in her to where she's like, yes, I'm still gonna care about what people think and like I'm gonna do the right thing, but also like I'm gonna have my fun with it. Like, you know. And it's a little bit of messy Chenford. Like I know that people are kind of, having their doubts and issues with that too, but also
Yeah.
like we gotta have a little bit of messy Chenford to keep the
Definitely
drama
messy.
alive,
Yeah.
you know? So yeah.
Hmm.
Um, that's about it though for the episode. I mean, unless we have any other thoughts.
There are just like so many things. Like I think it honestly was just like the tropey, that's not actually a word, I don't think. Like nature of this
Yeah.
ridiculous Chenford of like, they're fake dating, they're,
Yeah.
sneaking around at work. It's like, the just all of the things
Yeah.
um kind of that they have going on, and it's um just not something, it's just not what I expected at all,
Yeah.
to be honest. But like I said, I don't mind it. It was just very, they just had all the things going on.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Um, yeah, so that's about it for this episode. Um, if you guys want to find us on Twitter, we're at the Shop Talk Pod _, or email us at shoptalktherookiepodcast@gmail.com with all of your thoughts. You can find us individually on Twitter as well. I'm at jstark804.
and I'm at Carrie Hyman.
And we're on TikTok as well at the Shop Talk Podcast _. Also be sure to check out our merch at shop-talk.dashery.com. We do have some new designs. I released some new ones, this week?
Yeah.
They're pretty great, if I do say so myself.
That raccoon, like I want it like in every format that it comes in. It's the
Same.
cutest. It's the
Same.
cutest thing
He's
I've ever seen.
literally so cute. Like I want to just like eat him up. He's adorable.
So cute.
Um, Similar to that one, I thought, what if I do kind of like a play on John's shops all getting destroyed, where it's like the shop car, and it's like shops, for whatever the number is, John 0. But then I'm
I was
like,
just gonna say that.
I don't
I was
know.
just gonna say that. I was like, oh wait, are you going there? I was like, yeah, John doesn't win anything.
Yeah, no, he doesn't. He doesn't, because that
Oh,
would just be too easy. So I
yeah.
might do that one too. I don't really know.
Ooh,
I'm kind of
so
having fun at
fun.
Procreate, honestly. It's like a nice stress reliever. So
Yeah.
yeah, so we'll see what else comes up. But the new designs are on sale. T Public, Dashery is having all these different sales, so go check them out. Because there's also an Ain't No Harm in Looking one too. That's from
Right.
Angela and like 708. So that's really fun.
Mm.
And if you love the podcast, please leave us a rating and review. It helps others find the podcast. We would really appreciate it. We'll love you forever if you just show us some love. So it's fine. Um,
Yeah.
and we'll be back next week to celebrate 4 years of Shop Talk, which is actually insane.
No. Oh my
Like,
God.
what? It's so
Holy
crazy.
cow.
So crazy. And to recap 713, but like we'll recap the episode, but we gotta celebrate Shop Talk turning 4. I don't know in what way, but we will. So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Until then, bye everyone.
Bye, guys.
Go get him, boo.